All right, hello everybody. My name is Sharon Purifoy, and this is my movie presentation project for OLA 809, Leading Change in Organizations. so, the movie that I have chosen is titled Coach Carter. It is a movie that came out in 2005, one of my favorite movies of all time. Coach Carter is based on a true story. It's about a high school basketball team from Richmond, California. The main character in this movie is Coach Ken Carter, played magnificently by Samuel L. Jackson. Coach Carter was an alumni of Richmond High School, still had ties to the community, still lived in the community, so he still knew people who worked at the school. So they thought that he would be a really good fit because of his ties with the community and the fact that he was an alumni to come back and help out at the school. So they asked if he would come back, and of course, he agreed to come back. But he said if he came back, he was coming under his own rules, stating that he was going to do what he needed to do to help effect change. When he arrived at the school, it was clear that there needed to be some change, especially with the basketball team. One of the main situations that needed to be changed was the team's attitude, mainly their self-discipline. Coach Carter quickly realized that the team lacked self-discipline. Most of the student athletes on the basketball team were receiving failing grades, not showing up for practice, not turning in homework. They were just there because they were told that they had to go to school. And of course, they played on the basketball team because it was something that they wanted to do. So, of course, Coach Carter wanted to change this behavior. So he enlisted a few teachers to help tutor some of the team members. And all of the team members. These teachers were also responsible for tracking grades and attendance with the use of weekly progress reports. These progress reports were to be given to Coach Carter so he could check up and see how the team was doing. He also had the team sign contracts affirming their commitment and agreement to the terms of his rules. This agreement stated that all members would maintain a 2.3 grade point average. They would dress appropriately with shirts and ties. They would sit in the front of the classroom, and they would attend all classes. All of the team members had to sign these contracts. The parents of these student athletes were aware of the contracts and that their son signed it, and they at first stated that they would uphold the contract and make sure that the students were doing what they were supposed to do. Well, unfortunately, when he received the progress reports, it showed that there were at least 6 students or 6 athletes failing at least one class. So he held them to their contract, and even though Richmond was celebrating an undefeated season, he decided that he was going to hold them to their contracts, and he locked the gym. He decided that since everybody had not held up to their side of the contract, that he was going to start forfeiting games to give those student athletes the opportunity to begin passing all of their classes. As a result, many of the family members and some faculty members were not happy with his decision to lock the gym and forfeit the games. So they went to the school board and they talked to the school board. Many people felt that it wasn't fair. The school board decided by a vote that he would have to open the gym. Of course, Coach Carter wasn't happy with this decision, so he decided to resign as coach. He looked at this as he was doing everything he could to teach these young men or young boys how to be men, and he wasn't getting help from others that surrounded him. So the change was evident, though, and that he was getting through to these boys, because the day he went back to clean out his office and clean out his desk, he had to walk through the gym. First thing he noticed was that the lock on the gym was no longer there, much to his dismay. But as he walked in the gym, there sat the entire basketball team. They had moved desks into the gym, and they were sitting there with some of the teachers that he enlisted, and they were doing homework and studying and being tutored. One of the basketball players that was there stated, "We're going to finish what you started, Coach." They had already come together as a team and decided that they were not going to play either until everybody on the team received those passing grades. So despite the opportunity to play, they had learned at that point that Coach Carter was there to help them. So they decided to uphold their part of the contract. So he effected change there. Another situation that needed to be changed was the perception that these young men had of themselves, as well as how some of them were perceived by their parents and their community. In the beginning, Coach Carter made a very profound statement. He stated that 80% of the guys on the basketball team were more likely to go to prison than college. And that was unfortunately because at that time, it was definitely a true statement. When he talked to some of them, they also believed that they would probably end up in prison or dead, because coming out of the neighborhoods that most of them resided in, that was your future. But Coach Carter set out to change that. He set out to prove that they could be successful. They could be successful in basketball, but they could also be successful in life. Unfortunately, he also had to prove this to many of the parents. Many of the parents thought that if their children were nothing else, they could become basketball players, which was sad that they thought that, because we know that 1 or 2% of high school athletes become part of the NBA. One of the parents even stated, basketball is the only thing that these boys got. Are we going to let Carter come in and take this away from them? As parents, they saw their sons as nothing but basketball players. So he did not only have to change the perception that these young men had of themselves, he had to change what their parents, those who were supposed to be teaching them about perceptions and who they were about the boys. Some of the things that he did to try to do this was to change their appearance. He put in the contract that they had to wear suit and ties. They had to appear studious. We've always been told that when you look good, you feel good. Just by changing how they saw themselves physically, gave them self-confidence. He taught them to believe in themselves and their teammates. They began tying each other's ties. It became more than just a basketball relationship. They started to care how each other looked. Again, the neighborhoods that they grew up in, on every corner, there was one way or another to get into trouble. They started to police each other to try to keep each other out of trouble, because they knew how easy it was to get into. He also taught them that they were stronger, united. He made them do drills where they had to rely on each other. So just teaching them that when you dressed better, you felt better about yourself. When you had other people to rely on, it made you work harder. He just gave them other things to look at. Coach Carter showed that he was an effective leader because he helped the members of the team achieve their highest potential. Sure, these guys knew that they could play basketball, but they weren't undefeated before he came there. He showed them not only could they compete on the basketball court, they could also compete in life. So like I said, their highest potential. They were an undefeated basketball team in California. He had a vision for them. He had a vision for them when they didn't even have a vision for themselves. Their goals for themselves was to get up and live and make it through another day. Graduating from high school, going to college was not a big deal. They were just living day to day. Again, he had a vision, he set goals, and he was successful in getting buy-in from them. At the beginning, many of them didn't want to work out. They were used to their own ways of life, but he let them know, in order to be on this team, in order to let me lead you, this is what you're going to have to do. So you start seeing the change throughout the movie. He was successful in getting buy-in from his team by motivating them to believe that they could really achieve this goal. So as they started getting passing grades, as they started winning basketball teams, they started to see, hey, we can do this. They began to see that the outcome was a better life for them. They started to see that I can be more than a high school basketball team. College coaches started coming to the basketball team, the games. So now they had something else to look forward to. They started to see that I could go to the next level. For my It's a Wrap session, as far as Coach Carter's behaviors and actions, I feel that they were appropriate for his audience. He was aware of the attitude of the team as well as the actions that were needed, that needed to be changed, or the behaviors that needed to be changed. In this course, we have learned that leaders must lead change in organizations. We have also learned that there are times when a leader is going to make unfavorable decisions. You have to think about the fact that here was a coach that came back his first year and he had an undefeated team. When he decided to lock those doors, he wasn't only doing this for the team. He, as a coach, was about to forfeit a game and make it so he was no longer undefeated also. He had to make that unfavorable decision, which in turn helped out the team. They got a chance to see how serious he was. We also learned that Coach Carter stood by his beliefs and his values despite the criticism that he believed. He was ready to quit his job as head coach because he thought, or he felt, or he knew that if we show these boys now that they don't have to hold up to a contract as high schoolers, what are we teaching them for the future? So he was ready to give up his job, his livelihood, to stand by his beliefs and values. But fortunately, by then, the teammates, his team members or basketball players had also bought into his beliefs and values. He was successful in getting the team to eventually, again, have those same beliefs. He was successful because of his team building. Sure, the basketball team was already there, but they had no idea what each other's strengths and weaknesses were. As he held practices, he was able to show them that you have this strength or you have this weakness. Together, we can come together as a team, and my weakness or my strength will even out what you have going on. He put the team in situations, again, that they had to depend on each other for success. And success is what they actually achieved. They did not win the entire season, but they were one game away. If Coach Carter had never come in and effected the change or showed these young boys that they were so much more than basketball, if he didn't show them the traits that they had, if he did not show them that even though they didn't know it at the time, they had informal leadership, he was able to bring those leaders out. They began to see that they became a better team, off and on the court. Sure, there were many obstacles, but because of the things that Coach Carter instilled in them, they were able to get past those obstacles. When I first watched Coach Carter, almost 10 years ago now, I didn't think that I would have changed anything about what Coach Carter um, did. I thought he came in at a time and did what he had to do. I respected how he did it. He used different leadership styles, and he had to. His first leadership style, he was autocratic. He came in, he let those boys know that he was the leader, and this is how we were going to do things. And like I said, at that time, it was very appropriate because he was dealing with young men who were not disciplined. As he began to know them, though, as a team and I guess as individuals, his leadership styles began to change. For instance, there were times when he became a transformational leader, with the goals and the vision and teaching them. He was also a visionary. I think that was his main approach. He was a visionary. The only thing now that I probably would have done differently is when I first got there, I would have got to the school, I would have talked to each guy as an individual. I would have wanted to know what their goals were personally and professionally. I would want to know where they saw themselves 5 years from now. Would have helped them write goals, and told them that they can each meet these individual goals. So that was or is my presentation on Coach Carter. And that was It's a Wrap segment. But my 3 questions that I pose for the discussion portion are: why do you think Coach Carter was successful in affecting change? For my second question, what would you have done differently to turn around the basketball team? And if faced with a similar situation at your organization, which leadership style would you use and why? Again, I am Sharon Purifoy. Thank you for listening to my movie presentation. Thank you.